3:47 in the afternoon, a homeowner pushed open his front door 7 hours earlier than expected. He should have heard the television. He should have heard footsteps. Instead, he heard a whisper, low, urgent, almost breathless, coming from someone who had no reason to hide. "Stay quiet." The voice belonged to his maid, a woman he had trusted with his home, his belongings, his schedule, a woman who knew where he kept his spare cash, his medication, his personal documents. And in that moment, standing in his own hallway, he realized he had walked into something that wasn't meant for him to see. The security camera in the living room had been recording all day, but what it captured in the 6 hours before he arrived would turn a routine early return into a criminal investigation that would expose a conspiracy months in the making. And the question isn't what she was hiding. The question is how long she had been planning it. And more disturbingly, how many times had she done this before? His name has been kept private in most reports, but we know the essentials. He was a working professional in his late 30s, living alone in a mid-sized suburban home on a quiet street where neighbors knew each other by sight, but rarely by name. His job required travel, sometimes overnight, sometimes across state lines. It was predictable work with an unpredictable schedule, and that unpredictability had become part of his routine. The kind of routine that makes you feel safe even when it shouldn't. He had hired the maid 8 months earlier. She came recommended through a local domestic services agency, background checked, references provided, clean record. She worked 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, always arriving at 9 in the morning and leaving by 4 in the afternoon. Reliable, professional, the kind of employee you forget is even there because everything just works. She had a key. She had the alarm code. She knew where he kept his medication, his documents, his spare cash for emergencies. She knew his schedule better than some of his own family members did. She knew when he'd be gone for 2 hours and when he'd be gone for 2 days. And over 8 months, she had built a detailed map of his entire life. That day was supposed to be a long one. He had told her the night before, casually, the way you tell someone who needs to know your schedule, that he wouldn't be home until after 10. A client meeting 2 hours away, then dinner with the same client to close a contract. She acknowledged it with a nod, the way she always did, quiet, efficient, unremarkable. He didn't think twice about it, but the meeting ended early. The client had a family emergency and had to reschedule the dinner. And at 3:47 p.m., he turned his key in the lock, pushed open his front door, and stepped into his own home 7 hours ahead of schedule. That single decision to come home early would unravel a plan that had been carefully constructed over weeks, and the cameras would capture every second of it falling apart. 9:02 a.m. She arrives on time. The doorbell camera catches her walking up the driveway, purse over one shoulder, canvas bag with cleaning supplies in the other hand. She's wearing the same casual clothes she always wears. Jeans, a loose sweater, comfortable shoes. She uses her key. The door closes behind her. For the first 2 hours, everything proceeds exactly as it should. The vacuum runs in the living room. Water runs in the kitchen sink. Movement through the hallway. The routine sounds of someone doing exactly what they're being paid to do. But there's one detail the camera didn't capture, and that detail changes everything. 11:18 a.m. A car pulls into the driveway. It's not his car. The doorbell camera records the front end, a dark sedan, older model. No visible plates from this angle. The driver doesn't get out immediately. The car idles for 43 seconds, long enough that a neighbor might notice, long enough that it feels deliberate, like someone waiting for a signal. Then the engine cuts. A man exits. Mid-20s, average build, wearing a gray hoodie and dark jeans. Baseball cap pulled low. He walks directly to the front door with the confidence of someone who's been there before. He doesn't knock, he doesn't ring the bell, he doesn't look around to see if anyone's watching. The door opens from the inside before he reaches it. She's standing there holding the door open, her body language calm and expectant. They don't embrace. They don't speak loud enough for the exterior microphone to pick up words. He steps inside. The door closes behind him. And that missing visitor, the one who doesn't knock, doesn't announce himself, doesn't hesitate, changes everything about what happens next. 11:21 a.m., 2:35 p.m. The interior living room camera, positioned to monitor the main entry and hallway, records intermittent movement over the next 3 hours. She passes through the frame 6 times. The man passes through 4 times. At 11:34 a.m., he's visible carrying a black duffel bag that wasn't in his hands when he entered. At 12:48 p.m., she's on her phone near the base of the stairs, pacing in a small circle, her posture tense and focused. At 1:22 p.m., he ascends the staircase and disappears from view for 18 minutes. They're not cleaning, they're not sitting down, they're not behaving like a maid and a surprise guest. They're moving with purpose through a home that doesn't belong to them, accessing spaces, opening doors, searching. Investigators would later note that during this 3-hour window, the homeowner's laptop, which he had left on his desk in the upstairs office, was accessed remotely. Login credentials were entered correctly on the first attempt. Files were opened. Financial documents were reviewed. Cloud storage accounts were browsed. Passwords were tested. The IP address matched the home network. Someone was inside his digital life just as thoroughly as they were inside his physical one. At 1:51 p.m., the living room camera captures something else. The man descends the stairs holding a small lockbox. It's a fireproof document safe, the kind you buy to protect passports and birth certificates. He carries it into the kitchen, out of the camera's view. 7 minutes later, he returns without it. His hands are empty, but his expression, what little is visible beneath the cap, looks satisfied. But there's something else. At 2:11 p.m., she walks past the camera carrying a framed photograph. It's from the hallway wall. A picture of the homeowner with his parents, taken years ago. She studies it for a moment, then sets it face down on the side table. Why? Investigators would later theorize she didn't want to see his face while she was robbing him. A small gesture of guilt, or perhaps just superstition. 2:36 p.m. The man leaves. The doorbell camera catches him walking back to the sedan, this time with the black duffel bag slung over his shoulder. It sags heavily now, the fabric stretching under the weight of whatever's inside. He opens the trunk, places the bag inside carefully, then closes it with both hands as if securing something fragile or valuable. She stands in the doorway watching him, arms crossed. He says something to her, his lips move, but the audio doesn't pick it up. She nods once. He gets in the car. The engine starts. The sedan reverses out of the driveway, turns left onto the street, and disappears. She stands there for 11 seconds, watching the empty street. Then she closes the door and locks it. Deadbolt. Chain. The full routine. But there's something she doesn't do, She doesn't return to cleaning. She doesn't gather her supplies. She doesn't turn off the lights in the kitchen or put away the vacuum. She doesn't prepare to leave like she normally would at the end of a shift. She waits. And the way she waits, standing near the window, checking her phone every few minutes, glancing toward the stairs, suggests she's not waiting for the day to end. She's waiting to see if the plan worked. 3:14 p.m. She moves through the house one more time. The living room camera catches her adjusting the picture frame on the wall, the one she'd taken down earlier. She straightens a couch cushion that doesn't need straightening. She picks up a drinking glass from the coffee table and carries it out of frame toward the kitchen. When she returns 30 seconds later, her hands are empty, but her body language has changed. She keeps looking toward the front door. Not casually, not like someone expecting a delivery, like someone expecting a problem. 3:47 p.m. He arrives. The doorbell camera records his car pulling into the driveway at normal speed. He parks. He gets out, keys in hand, jacket over one arm, expression neutral and tired. He's thinking about traffic, about what's in the fridge, about whether he remembered to respond to that last email before he left the client's office. He walks up to the door, unlocks it. The deadbolt clicks. He pushes the door open, stepping over the threshold into his own entryway, and she's standing there, 5 feet from the entrance. Hands clasped in front of her like she's been waiting. Her face is pale, her eyes are wide, and her voice, when she speaks, is barely a whisper. Stay quiet. The living room camera captures this entire moment in silent, unflinching detail. He freezes in the doorway, one hand still gripping the knob, his body half in and half out of his own home. She doesn't move toward him. She doesn't move away. She's standing directly between him and the hallway that leads to the rest of the house. The kitchen, the stairs, the bedrooms. Her posture is deliberate, shoulders squared, weight evenly distributed, eyes locked on his. This isn't panic, this isn't confusion, this is someone trying to control a situation that's spiraling. He asks the obvious question. His lips form the words, clearly enough for investigators to read them later. What's going on? She doesn't answer immediately. The camera records 3 full seconds of silence. 3 seconds where neither of them moves. Where the only sound, according to the audio analysis, is the hum of the refrigerator in the next room and the faint creak of the house settling. Then she says it again, more urgently this time. Stay quiet, don't go upstairs. And that's when he hears it. A sound from the second floor. Not loud, not violent, not the crash of something breaking or the slam of a door. Just a creak. The low, distinct groan of weight shifting on old floorboards. The sound of someone moving carefully, trying not to be heard. Someone is still in the house. According to his later statement to police, his first reaction wasn't fear. It was confusion. This woman had been in his home 3 days a week for 8 months. She had cleaned his bathroom. She had done his laundry. She had watered his plants when he forgot. She was quiet, dependable, nearly invisible. The kind of person you stopped noticing after the first month because they simply become part of the routine. And now she was standing in his living room, telling him not to go upstairs in his own house. Telling him to stay quiet, warning him. He takes 1 step toward the stairs. Not aggressive, just instinctive. The natural movement of someone who wants to know what's happening in their own home. She moves to block him. Not physically, she doesn't grab him, doesn't touch him, but she steps into his path, her body language firm and unmistakable. Stop. Don't. And in that motion, something falls out of her apron pocket. It hits the hardwood floor with a metallic clink that the camera's microphone picks up clearly. Both of them look down. It's a key. Not her house key, not a cleaning supply key, a car key, his car key. The spare he kept in the kitchen drawer for emergencies. The one he'd noticed missing 2 weeks ago and assumed he'd misplaced. The camera captures him looking down at the key on the floor, then slowly back up at her. And in that moment, you can see the realization spreading across his face like cold water. She wasn't protecting him. She was protecting someone else, and that someone was still upstairs. He didn't go upstairs. He didn't confront her. He didn't shout or demand answers. According to his own account, something in her expression told him that escalating the situation would make it worse. So he did the only thing that made sense. He backed out of the house, walked calmly to his car, got inside, locked the doors, and called the police from the driveway. He stayed on the line. He kept his eyes on the front door, and he waited. Officers arrived within 6 minutes. 2 patrol units, lights off to avoid alerting anyone inside. They approached the door with weapons drawn. He gave them his keys. They entered. The maid was still in the living room, sitting on the couch now, hands folded in her lap, cooperative, calm. She didn't resist. She didn't run. When officers asked her what was happening, she told them she had heard noises from upstairs and told the homeowner to stay quiet because she thought someone had broken in. She said she didn't know who it was. She said she was scared and didn't know what to do. It was a reasonable story. It might have even worked, if not for the cameras. Officers cleared the first floor, then moved to the second. They announced themselves loudly. They checked every room. The guest bedroom, empty. The bathroom, empty. The office, empty but disturbed. The master bedroom, also empty. But the window was open. Fully open, the curtains blowing in the breeze. The screen had been removed from the inside and was leaning against the exterior wall 2 stories below. Fresh scuff marks on the white vinyl siding suggested someone had climbed down within the last few minutes, using the gutter downspout as a brace. In the master bedroom, investigators found the homeowner's safe. It was a small floor safe, installed in the corner of the closet and concealed behind a false panel that looked like part of the baseboard. The panel had been removed. The safe door was open, not forced, not drilled, not damaged, unlocked, opened with the correct combination. Inside $2,000 in cash was missing. A Glock 19 handgun was missing. Several pieces of jewelry, family heirlooms, including his grandmother's wedding ring, were missing. But the passports were still there. The title documents were still there. The external hard drives with backups of 10 years of personal files were still there. This wasn't a smash and grab. This wasn't someone tearing through drawers hoping to find something valuable. This was surgical. Someone knew exactly what to take and what to leave behind. Someone knew where the safe was, how to open it, and what was inside. The duffel bag the man had carried out at 2:36 p.m. was never recovered. The dark sedan was never found. Doorbell cameras on 3 neighboring homes captured the same vehicle passing by that morning. Once at 10:52 a.m., once at 11:16 a.m., once at 2:39 p.m., but no angle ever captured a clear view of the license plate. Either it was deliberately obscured or the car had none. The maid's phone records were subpoenaed within 24 hours. Between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. that day, she had exchanged 47 text messages with a contact saved under a generic first name, Mike. The content of those messages was not released publicly, but investigators described them in court filings as coordinating timing, logistics, and exit strategy. Her story began to unravel under the weight of the evidence. She claimed she didn't know the man who had entered the house, but the text message logs showed ongoing communication over a 3-week period, including messages sent at 11:02 a.m. the day of the crime that read, "He said 10 tonight, you're clear until 4. She claimed she had no knowledge of the safe, but her fingerprints were found on the closet door where the safe was hidden, on the false baseboard panel that concealed it, and on the nightstand directly beside it. These weren't cleaning prints. They were fresh from that day, overlapping other prints in a way that suggested she'd been directing someone. The homeowner confirmed under oath that he had never shown her the location of the safe. He had never mentioned it in conversation. He had never asked her to clean that area of the closet. It was concealed behind a panel that required knowing exactly where to press to release the catch. There was no visible seam, no handle, no indication it was even there, unless you knew. So how did she know? The answer came from the laptop. Forensic analysis of the device showed multiple login attempts from inside the home over the previous 6 weeks, always on days she was scheduled to work, always during hours when the homeowner was confirmed to be out of town. Someone had been methodically searching his files, looking at bank statements, reviewing insurance policies, opening password-protected documents, building a comprehensive inventory of what he owned and where he kept it. And then there was the matter of the car key. He had noticed it missing 2 weeks earlier. He'd checked the drawer twice, then assumed he'd misplaced it somewhere and made a mental note to get a replacement cut. He didn't think to check the drawer again. But archived security footage from October 19th, reviewed during the investigation, showed her opening that specific kitchen drawer, removing the key, holding it up to examine it, and slipping it into her pocket before leaving for the day. She wasn't just stealing, she was preparing, making copies, planning exits, mapping escape routes, ensuring that if something went wrong, she'd have options. And something did go wrong. He came home 7 hours early. The plan so carefully constructed collapsed in real time, and the cameras captured every frame of that collapse. She was arrested that evening at 7:43 p.m. Charges: conspiracy to commit burglary, aiding and abetting theft, unlawful access to a computer system, and possession of stolen property. Bail was set at $50,000. She posted it within 48 hours. Money provided by a family member, according to court records. The man in the hoodie was identified 1 week later through a combination of phone records and facial recognition. His name was released in local news reports. 26 years old. Previous arrests for theft and receiving stolen goods. Currently on probation for an unrelated offense. He was an acquaintance from her previous job. Another home she had cleaned for nearly a year. Another family she had been welcomed into and trusted by. That family, when contacted by investigators, reported 2 unexplained incidents over the past 14 months. $300 missing from a bedroom drawer, a laptop that vanished from a home office. They had suspected their teenage son and his friends. They had argued about it, punished the boy. Never once suspected her. She'd helped them look for the missing items. She'd even suggested they check the son's school locker. The man was arrested at a budget motel 30 miles outside the city. He was alone. The duffel bag was not in his possession. The stolen items were not in the room. A search of his vehicle turned up nothing. He refused to answer questions. His attorney released a brief statement denying all involvement and claiming his client had been in the home as an invited guest and had no knowledge of any theft. But his phone told a different story. Text messages. Photos of the homeowner's street taken from a moving car, time-stamped 3 weeks before the crime. A voice memo where he and another male voice discussed the job and waiting until he's gone for real this time. The homeowner installed new locks the next day, new cameras with higher resolution and cloud backup, a new alarm system with motion sensors on every floor and panic buttons in 3 rooms. He didn't hire another maid. He didn't hire another service of any kind. In an interview he gave to a local news outlet 6 months later, he said the hardest part wasn't the missing money or the stolen jewelry. It was the violation. The realization that someone had been inside his life, cataloging it, studying it, weaponizing his own routines against him, while he had smiled and thanked her and paid her on time every single week. The case moved slowly through the legal system. Pre-trial hearings, motions, continuances, plea negotiations. Her defense attorney argued that she had been coerced, manipulated, threatened by the man, that she had let him into the home out of fear, not greed, that she was a victim too. But the text messages undermined that narrative. The tone was casual, familiar, even playful. At one point, 3 days before the crime, she had sent a laughing emoji in response to his message. "We're going to clean him out for real." There was no fear in those messages, no hesitation, just planning. Prosecutors pushed for a trial. They had the evidence, they had the timeline. They had her own words in digital form. But 2 weeks before jury selection, she accepted a plea deal. Guilty to conspiracy to commit burglary and theft of property over $1,000. Sentencing: 4 years in state prison, with eligibility for parole after 24 months. The man in the hoodie went to trial. He was convicted on all counts: burglary, theft, unlawful possession of a firearm. His sentence was harsher: 8 years, no possibility of early release. The judge noted his prior record and the premeditated nature of the crime as aggravating factors. The stolen items were never recovered. Not the cash, not the handgun, not the jewelry. Investigators believed they were sold within days, fenced through contacts neither defendant would name. The homeowner was reimbursed by his insurance company for the appraised value. But some things don't have value you can calculate. His grandmother's ring, the sense of safety in his own space, the ability to trust. Insurance covers objects. It doesn't cover the feeling of standing in your own hallway, being told to stay quiet by someone you paid to be there. Go back to that moment one more time. 3:47 p.m. The door swings open. He steps inside, tired from a meeting, thinking about dinner. And she's standing there in the middle of his living room, whispering 2 words that don't make sense. Stay quiet. What if he had listened? What if he had frozen, stayed silent, obeyed without question? Would she have let the man finish upstairs and escape out the back? Would she have walked him to the door, locked it behind him, and then pretended to discover the open window and the missing items alongside the homeowner, playing the role of the shocked and loyal employee? Or was that whisper her last desperate attempt to control a situation that was already collapsing, a plan that had been weeks in the making, destroyed by a canceled dinner meeting and 7 hours of bad timing. And the camera caught everything except the truth. Behind her eyes in that moment, it caught her standing there. It caught his confusion. It caught the key falling to the floor. But it didn't catch what she was thinking. When the person she had been planning against for weeks suddenly walked through the door at the worst possible time. The footage is still stored in evidence. Timestamp burned into the corner. Camera label in the upper right. Cam 1, living. A frozen frame of a woman in jeans and a sweater, standing in a living room that wasn't hers, protecting a crime that was already falling apart. And somewhere in that image, in the angle of her shoulders, the tension in her hands, the direction of her gaze, is the answer to the question every homeowner who hears the story asks themselves, how long was she planning it? How many times did she walk through those rooms, cleaning and cataloging and preparing? How many conversations did she have standing in that kitchen, smiling and nodding, while mentally inventorying everything she saw? 8 months, 48 days of work, 144 hours inside his home, inside his routine, inside his trust. And all it took was 7 hours. 7 hours he came home early for the entire plan to shatter. The security camera is still there, still recording, still watching. A silent witness to the moment when trust became evidence and a whisper became a confession.